In this video, we're going to focus on the circle template located up here in the upper left-hand corner. And this is going to take a design that we have and put it into, it's going to repeat it and put it into a circle. And what I always like to do is make sure that I'm on inches in my ruler whenever I'm doing something with any of these repeat or template tools. And so you can see that I am in inches. If I right mouse click on this ruler here, you can see that inches is chosen. You might want to consider clicking on inches before you go into the templates. So I'm going to select this design, and you can see it's multiple colors, multiple objects here. And I'm going to click on the circle template, and you can see that when I load it, it brings it in here, and you can see that they're kind of touching each other. And so let's just explore what we can do. First thing, notice down here in the output size, it says 7.25 inches by 7.18 inches. You might want to keep that in mind as you're working with this design to make sure that your design is going to fit into the hoop that you want to put it in. Up here, we have a couple options. Circle dimensions, where we just affect the dimensions of the circle. We have the ability to affect the objects in this section, and then the design properties in this section. So let's go ahead and take a look here. The circle width is 3.95. If I change that to, let's say, 6 and hit apply, you're going to notice that it does get much bigger down here in the output size. It does spread it out a little bit, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to put it at 4 and hit apply and get back to kind of where it was a little bit. And the height and the width are the same here. You can make it more of an oval, so that might be kind of interesting too. And if I hit 6 for the height, you can see that it's now kind of more in an oval shape. I might want to have that opposite where it's 6 and 4 and hit apply, and that will make it more wider. You can see how that kind of works. I'm going to put it back to 4 here and hit apply, and I'll just check this aspect ratio again. Now let's go take a look at the object section. So now what you have here is the count. This says there's 6 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I want there to be 5, I can just hit 5. If I want there to be 4, I can have it as just 4. Let's go ahead and keep it at 4 right now. And let's take a look at the angle. Right now it's at 90. Let's go ahead and put that at 0 and hit apply. And you can see that it just totally gets rid of all of them. And this is something that I've noticed, that when you're playing with the angle, because it's working with the size, that if I go down to a certain point, it's going to it'll remove one of them. There's just no telling when that takes place, but it will affect it. Okay, so that actually looks kind of cool, but I'm going to go back to 90 here. I'm going to hit apply, and keeping it at 4. But it's just something to keep in mind as you start playing with this. It will automatically change the count up here sometimes, and it's just so it fits within an area. And then we have an offset angle. It's at 0. If I mess with that a little bit, like 50, and hit apply, you can see that it really affects just the objects being offset. And that's really something that you can explore and play with, that I can see being kind of useful to play with. But I'm going to put it back at 0. And the great thing about any of these templates or repeat tools is you can just put whatever you want. You can just play with it, and you don't have to worry about breaking anything. The only thing that I do is I keep track of where I'm at before I start doing something. So by default, this was at 0, and I want to make sure I know that, so that if I didn't like what just happened, I could go right back to where I was. So you might want to keep track of what values you're using before you start making changes. Let's now explore design properties. You have the scale. This is at 100%, meaning the design is as large as it was in the design page. It didn't make it bigger or smaller, it kept it the same size. If I needed it to be smaller or larger, I could change that right here. Just keep in mind, you need to be careful whenever you're resizing designs, because sometimes you can go too small or too large. And running stitch designs, you can adjust it quite a bit, but anytime you're working with satin stitches, and there's some satins in this design, you have to be a little careful. Angle Now we can kind of mess with the angle a little bit of the design. So let's go ahead and put this at like 50 and hit apply. You'll notice it's just gonna modify it a little bit here, and you can just see kind of how that works. So that's kind of a cool thing. It looks like they're following each other there. So that 90 is not bad. Let's go back to 0 and hit apply. And this is kind of where it was. Now I can auto rotate it or not. If I choose to not auto rotate, it keeps them all going the same direction. If I click it again, it'll rotate each one by a percentage there. And let's see what reflect does. Reflect is just making it kind of go a different direction. It was doing it vertically and horizontally, depending on where they were located here. And so let's just start playing around a little bit. Let's do this angle. Let's get it kind of going around. Let's see. You can see how it's kind of affecting it, and it's changing them from having a bunch of them to nothing or to one. I don't necessarily like that too much. So let's go back. I think it was at 90. Yep, that's what it was. And offset angle, let's play around with that a little bit and see what happens. So you can see it just is like kind of rotating it. It's just along that path of the circle. So you can just see how that works there. Hit apply. Scale, we can do something with. Let's just play around with this one right here. This is the angle. And notice what's happening here. These are all rotating pretty good. And you know what? I kind of like this right here. What I have done is made it look like these are now all flying off in different directions. And I could see a use for something like this with this design. I might have drop a little design in here, maybe a little monogram, whatever it is, but then it looks like these spaceships are like or rockets are flying off and out. And I kind of like that look right there. And so that's what you have to do, is just play around with the design. And it's important to know that this is the circle size. This is how the objects works with the objects and how many there are and what angle they're at and the offset. And this has to do with the design. So making the size different or the angle different for the design. And then in the auto rotate, we saw that if I uncheck that, you can see that they're all going to be flying this direction, which is kind of cool too. If I turn back auto rotate again, it will go back to where I was. Reflect, that's not going to really, it did change it a little bit, and that's kind of a cool look too. Color sort right here is a nice feature, because when I load this design, just kind of watch what happens. It's going to put the colors together instead of a bunch of color sequences, meaning it's not going to do just one rocket all the way and then do the other rocket. If I have color sort on, it's going to do all the blues and then all the golds together. It's just kind of a nice little feature. So let's go ahead and hit OK here. And when I hit OK, notice that the design loads. And like I said, the color sequence here, it auto sorted them. So all the reds are going to be done first. All of those light blues, all of those golds or oranges, and then that blue, and then this orange, which that was set up this way in the design. So that's why it sorted it that way. I could have combined those colors in the previous, but just for fun, let me go ahead and undo this. And I'm going to select this again and go up to Circle Template. And I'm just going to uncheck Color Sort. I'm not going to go back to where I was, but just watch what happens in the sequence view if I don't have Color Sort. It did actually color sort it, so that was kind of weird. Let's go back here. Maybe I didn't hit apply or something, but let's uncheck that, hit apply, and hit OK. Okay, there we go. I didn't hit apply. So you can see that it's going to do one rocket at a time. So if you wanted to do one rocket at a time, you can do that. Just uncheck the auto color sort. And there are times when you might want to do that. If it's kind of a large design and you find that you get registration issues, you might want to go in and uncheck that and have it do one at a time. There's just a lot of changes going on in the machine if you do that. So I just wanted to show you though that that is a possibility, and there are times where you might want it to not color sort it. And if I select one, it's selecting them all, so it did bring them in grouped. Just another thing to know. It's good to know that that does that. You can easily ungroup them by just clicking that icon right there, or clicking it again to group it back together. So that is the circle repeat or circle template tool. It's really easy to work with. You just have to play with it. And that's the thing, is you don't really know what you're going to get until you really go in there and play with it and manipulate the settings and just try to figure out the look that works best for you. And that's how you use a tool like that, is you just have to play with it. And so hope that that was helpful and that you'll utilize this circle template tool, and we'll see you in the next video.